Jay Satur here with the coach, Jack Armstrong. Jack, at the time we are shooting this, we are stranded in Miami right now. There are certainly worse places to be, I'd say. And I wanted to ask you, what's your worst travel experience you've had in this job over the course of your long career doing this?
This is awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's just terrible.
Tragic.
I think we're going to overcome it at some point, though. I mean, it's just brutal. I mean, that we have to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
But worst travel story. I would guess two. When I was a head coach at Ford at Niagara, we played in New York. This was like mid-'90s, and we get stranded there for 4 days. The good thing is, though, we did get our game in. And literally, though, by the last day there, the workers weren't even coming to the hotel anymore. So basically, we're stuck at a hotel with no food. The stores all around us are shut down. So needless to say, you kind of work your way through it a little bit, and you're living off of chips and dip and things like that. So, and then another time I was an assistant at Fordham, and we were supposed to bus from the Bronx to Philadelphia for a game against LaSalle at the Palestra. And the bus gets to campus and literally wipes out. And the bus driver says, "I'm not driving in the snow." The guy had obviously little experience driving in the snow. This is New York. So we hop on a commuter train, which kind of comes right next to campus, takes us down to Grand Central Station, and we have to take a subway train from Grand Central Station over to Penn Station to take a train, Amtrak train, to Philadelphia. So needless to say, it was a mad dash, people going crazy, and we have all these guys, 6'8", 6'10", hopping on the subway and carrying bags, and it wasn't a pleasant sight, but somehow, some way we get to Philadelphia, and then of course there's no taxis, there's no bus, there's no anything. We have to walk 8 blocks to the hotel, and then the next day, of course, we lose. So this is how it goes.
Yeah, so needless to say, we're not in too bad a predicament here, here in Miami.
Good.
So yeah, now let's get to a couple of our fan questions, Jack. Our first question's coming to us from Byron Kelly, who's asking, the Raps seem to put up a really good fight against the Miami Heat here in Miami, but they came up short again, a 14th straight defeat against the Miami Heat. What more can they do to try to beat the champs next time? What do they need to do?
I think, well, the biggest thing was the fact that that they missed free throws. I think that really hurt them, because when you play a great team, your margin of error is so slim. And I said it during the game. It's kind of like leaving your putt short. It'll come back to get you, and I think it really did. I think if you can evaluate and look at that, you say to yourself, you know what? Probably win the game if you make them. Number two, I think not having Tyler Hansborough hurt. They were out-rebounded by a team that's not a very good rebounding team, and particularly on the offensive boards. And that's an area I think a guy like Valanciunas has to get better at. He's a good positional rebounder, but when he has to track a rebound, when he has to go get it, and we're going to see Andre Drummond on Wednesday night against Detroit, he's a guy that can go get it. And I think that's an area of Valanciunas' game. Some of it you can teach, some of it you can't. I think he does a good job of getting to the right spots, but then he's got to go get it. And I think the one thing that you look at a guy like Hansborough on this team, he's their best their tracker, their best 50-50 rebounder, their guy that can go get it. And I think those two things more than else jumped out to me. I thought they played great. They played with energy. They played with toughness. And they're closing the gap. Here's a crazy thing, but they lost it by 9 and 7 at home to Miami, and at Miami now by 5. So you're that much closer to winning.
Right.
And in my opinion, and there's no such thing as a moral victory, I do think, though, that the confidence level is greatly increasing.
Another question, Jack, coming to us from Grant, who's asking specifically about DeMar DeRozan. We're starting to hear some all-star buzz about DeMar, and as well as Kyle Lowry with this team. Now, he's asking specifically about DeMar and asking, what does he need to do on the floor in order to get that all-star selection?
Well, I think he's improving greatly, and I think he's got to continue to improve at the rate he's improving at in terms of being consistent with shot selection, in the fourth quarter last night. I think there were a few times that I think there's a few shots he'd probably want back. But I'm seeing a young man who's really rounding into form. He's only 24. That his best days are ahead of him. So I don't think there's a lot more. I look at him and say, man, there's major flaws in his game. He's rebounding better. He's passing it better. He's guarding better. And they're all good gradual steps that he's taken. So I would think that a lot depends on winning. You know, if the team in the next few weeks can win and win consistently, then I think it's important for people to look and say, all right, who are the guys that are impacting winning? And I think you look at around the Eastern Conference, Raptors have the fourth best record in the East in some way, shape, or form. Somebody from that team should probably have a chance to get in the All-Star game, and that would be either him or Kyle Lowry. So you hope that if they can win the next few weeks, that's going to help his case and Kyle Lowry.
Jack, we've got another question coming to us from, well, the name is No Props Needed is his name. I like that. It's a little shout out to Matt Devlin. Not bad at all. And he wishes you a happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And his question to you is, who is the best power forward in the game today? A lot of options. We've got some young guys. We've got some more veteran guys in the league, like Tim Duncan, for example. But who would you suggest is the best power forward in the game?
Wow. You're going to have to prompt me a little bit with a few names. I mean, obviously a Tim Duncan would be an all-timer. A guy like Blake Griffin jumps out at me right now as one. Here's a crazy one I'm going to mention, but he's not really a power forward, but he plays it. And that's LeBron James. I mean, right now, if you look at their lineup, he's traditionally playing at the 4 spot more than the 3 spot. So I would put him right at the top of the list. But most people wouldn't. But the fact of the matter is, he's matched up with those guys most nights. So I would put him in that category. Blake Griffin is a special talent. You know, he's got to get to the point where he's consistent. But he's a guy that I really am a fan of.
LaMarcus Aldridge could be
LaMarcus Aldridge, that's a good one. I drew a blank there, but he definitely. You look at their team right now, how they're playing, a big reason why they're so successful. He's great in screen and roll. He's got a terrific face-up game. He's improved around the basket. He rebounds relatively consistently. And, you know, you got to look at, and I'm a big believer in strength of schedule and all that. You're in the tougher conference. You're in the West. And if you're bringing it every night and you're one of the elite teams in the league, you know, who's the defining player on the Blazers? There's no doubt it's him. So I would definitely put him in that conversation. Obviously, Dirk Nowitzki, you know, he's still at a very high level. But I would put, you know, Aldridge right at the top of the list with a lot of those guys. But it's a good discussion. But if I had to pick one guy and you asked me, I like playing small, I'd go with LeBron.
Okay, Jack, one more question coming to us from Sam Bosey, who's asking, you know, what piece or what kind of player do you think the Raptors would need right now to improve their roster, but still kind of continue their style of play that's been, you know, kind of helped them be so successful of late?
I think any way you can bolster the second unit and continue to improve your internal competition, I think, is a big step. Obviously, there's some questions right now with Tyler Hansbrough being out for a few games with a sprained ankle. Is there enough in the front court? And I would say that's a challenge right now. So now with Hansbrough healthy, are you comfortable with the 9 guys you have? You know, you got Vasquez along with your 2 bigs and John Salmons. You know, maybe you can improve that second unit a little bit more. But, you know, a lot depends on what the price is you have to pay. I'm very comfortable with the starting 5 right now. So I think it would be more so adding a piece to that. I mean, do they have a shooting specialist on that team? Yeah, they have Novak. He doesn't play. Can Landry Fields play a few different positions? And is he versatile? Yes. So I think you're okay there. Do you have a third point guard? Well, right now, you know, probably Julian Stone is a little bit ahead of Dwight Bikes, obviously, because of his size and his defensive ability, and Bikes is in the D-League. So I would probably have to say, you know, can you tweak that 9-man rotation a little bit, and can you get a little bit more interior toughness and rebounding? But again, I think if you have Hansbrough back in the mix, I think that's a pretty decent 9-man rotation. And again, it's all about what price do you have to pay to improve your team? If you don't have to pay a big price, yeah, it's worth it. If you have to pay a big price, then I think you got to be a little reluctant about that, because right now you're in a good spot.
All right. We want you to add a piece to our next edition of Ask Jack, so be sure to include that hashtag Ask Jack when we look for your questions on the next edition of Ask Jack.